Season 2 of Marvel Rivals started early this week, including a brand new map, Krakoa, a map with a few secrets. Let's have a look. Overall, the most popular content for any new season in a hero-based shooter is going to be the heroes, especially if they are Marvel heroes, which kind of makes sense. But one piece of content that I'm personally always very excited about are the new maps. The art team at NetEase has been hitting it out of the park with all of the work they did on the maps. They all look gorgeous and they usually are riddled with ton of lore Easter eggs and even some teasers for future heroes. And that is no different this time around. Krakoa has some nice Easter eggs. Actually, it has some literal eggs. Now, in case you're not familiar with the lore, Krakoa is a sentient or living island that is floating somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It is the home of the mutants. It was once part of a bigger sentient landmass called Okara, but it was split in two by the Twilight Sword. So one part became Krakoa, and that second part is actually also very important, especially for the future of Marvel Rivals. But I'll come back to that at the end of this video. When it comes to Krakoa, there's a level of symbiosis between the island and the mutants. The island actually helped the mutants to raise to a new level, on top of it just being a safe haven, a place to call their own. Now, once a year they throw a gala, the Hellfire Gala, and they basically invite humans to celebrate the existence of mutants, which, as you probably figured out, is the central theme for this season. Now, as you would expect from a living island, it comes with all kinds of plants, creatures, but it also has a face, which is conveniently shaped like a tree. You can see that tree on the growth part of the map. On all of the submaps, you can also find portals. These will actually activate once the point is captured. It will take some time, however. They kind of slowly become active. And they help players to travel around the map more easily, sometimes to convenient places like a health pack. Or they might actually get you lost. It happened. But they are the gimmick for this map, like all of the maps in Marvel Rivals have. You have the gods kind of chiming in Wakanda, or all of the structures evolving on the Hydra base map. In the comics, these are called flower portals, and they can only be used by mutants. In the game, that is luckily a little different, would not be convenient. Well, it would be very convenient for those mutants. But I presume the way that they explain it is because it is the Hellfire Gala. Just for that one day, everybody can use everything. Well, not everything, but you catch the drift. And those portals are not the only link between Krakoa and the mutants. The island actually helped the mutants to become immortal. Well, in some way. They can get reborn. See, on the Cradle submap, you need to protect or stop Ultron from getting Cerebro, aka that big helmet Professor X is always wearing. It is some type of supercomputer that allows him to see mutants everywhere through brainwaves. We've seen it in different forms and shapes over the last few years in movies, comics, and whatnot. By the way, in the Grove, you can find a few statues of mutants. Emma Frost, Storm, Magneto, and Professor X, where he is wearing Cerebro, which is of course fueling the rumors that old Xavier is going to join the roster sometime soon. He's not going to be using his wheelchair though. I don't know, I'm kind of both disappointed and excited for that. But it would kind of be cool to see him wheel around and run people over. Oh yeah. Anyways, on Krakoa, Cerebro is also used to store the brainwaves of all the mutants in the island. That's why it's kind of embedded in that trunk of the tree. Now, if a mutant should happen to die, they can be reborn through the island. It is a whole process. It requires quite a lot of people. It's almost like a ritual. But they end up being born again out of those golden eggs you can see in the resurrection room. Now, if you haven't seen the resurrection room yet, it's actually hidden behind the spawn room. Weirdly enough, kind of a missed opportunity. But in the end screens, you can see Ultron being reborn from one of those eggs. And like I said, there's both some flora and fauna to be found on the island. For instance, on the Carousel submap, which is kind of the, I guess, party part of the whole island, it's kind of the main stage for the gala. You can actually see people dancing in the background, really tiny people. But you can also see a huge dragon perched on a swing above the capture point. Now, occasionally he'll fly up, he go to a higher floor, and then eventually he comes back. Now, most people assumed that that was going to be Lockheed. When I saw him first, I actually thought it was Lockheed. I talked about Lockheed in a previous video about animals that could become heroes. And dragons, well, are they animals? But some sources claim that it was actually confirmed by NetEase that this is Shogo Lee, which is totally possible. Shogo Lee is the only human permanent resident in Krakoa. Now, you might think, Damesies, that is not a human, that's a dragon. Sure, but let me explain. Shogo Lee is the adopted son of Jubilee. It is a whole story where a meteor came down, killed his parents, and she adopted him. But at some point, he was also possessed, is maybe the best way to call it, or infected by Archaea, which I presume left a mark. I'm not 100% sure about this, but he can change into a dragon, but usually only in the other world. It's kind of a result of his imagination and some powers. So the fact that this is happening on Krakoa makes me think that NetEase is taking some liberties with that whole story. Or it is Lockheed. I don't know. There's other creatures that can be found on all the sub-maps. Like those little plant-looking creatures that disappear if you get a little too close. Well, sometimes. I was hoping to see Amazing Baby on one of the sub-maps. He's a werewolf puppy that was actually adopted by Rachel Gray. And he was sitting on top of Rocket's head in one of the promo pictures. So I was hoping to see him, but alas, they might keep him for mid-season. However, there is another puppy on the map. Well, puppy. Logan, a Psylocke or Psy's wolf pet. You can find him taking a nap on Psylocke's bed. One of the grove spawns is actually her house. You can tell because there's a huge amount of swords in there. How many swords does one person need? Seriously. Now the spawn room on the other side is most likely Magic's house, since it is just riddled with baby demons. There's baby demons taking a nap, there's a baby demon on a swing, there's just a baby demon sitting around. However, there is a chemistry set or an alchemy set standing there that kind of throws me off. That does not tie it into Magic. However, I do think it's Magic House, because in all of the trailers, both Magic and Psylocke are side by side, fighting in the blue and yellow typical X-Men costume. So I guess it kind of makes sense that you're kind of pairing them up. Another thing that I'm quite unsure about is the huge spire that you can see in one of the Cradle spawn rooms. I'm pretty sure that is tied into Ultron taking over Krakoa or attacking Krakoa. I guess it's his mode of transport. I wouldn't call it a ship, but in the pre-spawn, and I think we can call it a pre-spawn, you actually are on or in that spire. And you can find the flower portal he hacked to get into Krakoa. Cheeky bugger. Now, Ultron's next target might be Araco, the twin island to Krakoa. It is that second part from when the whole mass was split into by the Twilight Sword. And it is said it is going to be released as a convoy map at mid-season. And I think that might explain more of what is happening in that spawn room. And it is also going to add another map for me to discover, so yay. I hope we see Amazing Baby on that one. We'll see. What do you think? And how do you like this new map? Let me know in the comments. For now, however, that was it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It always helps me out. I also want to thank my members that could not make these videos without you guys. You too can become a member right here on YouTube. If you have a few minutes left, maybe check out one of my other videos. But above all, make sure to subscribe because I'll be back with a new video very soon. Till then, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Bye bye.